Alright, here goes. I never thought I'd be the guy posting in a relationship advice subreddit, but here we are. I've been married to my wife, Anna, for 6 years. On paper, she's exactly what you'd call put together. Smart, pretty, confident, the kind of woman who walks into a room and makes everyone notice. In reality, let's just say the cracks started showing way earlier than I wanted to admit. At first, it was small stuff. She'd forget to tell me about plans with friends until the last second, or she'd make up little stories that didn't quite add up. You know when someone's version of events changes every time they tell it? That was her specialty. I told myself I was being paranoid. I mean, who wants to believe their spouse lies over the dumbest things? Then came the mood swings. One minute she'd be sweet and affectionate. The next she'd be snapping at me over how I stacked the dishwasher. And it wasn't just bad days. It was like she had a switch she could flip whenever she wanted. I started feeling like I was constantly walking on eggshells in my own house. Looking back, those were the first warning signs. But at the time, I chalked it up to stress or just how marriage is sometimes. I didn't realize then how much worse things were going to get. And trust me, it did get worse. It was a Tuesday night, and Anna said she had to stay late at work because of some urgent project. No big deal. She worked in marketing, and last-minute campaigns happened. Except about an hour after she left, I got a call from my buddy Matt. He'd been at a bar downtown and swore he just saw Anna there. Not in work clothes, not buried in a laptop, but dressed up, laughing, and sitting way too close to some guy. I remember my stomach dropping, but I didn't want to believe it. I called her. No answer. Texted her. Nothing. 3 hours later, she strolls in, all smiles, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers. I asked her point blank, "Were you at a bar tonight?" She didn't even flinch. "No, why would I be? I told you I was working. You're being weird." When I mentioned Matt had seen her, she rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Oh, please. You probably saw someone who looked like me. You really trust your drunk friend over your wife." And here's the thing. I actually let it go. I convinced myself maybe Matt was mistaken. I wanted to believe her so badly that I ignored the fact her story didn't line up. But that was the night something shifted in me. For the first time, I realized my wife could look me straight in the eye, lie without blinking, and make me feel like I was the crazy one. Little did I know, that was just the warm-up. About 2 weeks later, the universe handed me the proof I didn't even want to find. Anna said she was going to yoga. Normally, she'd toss her mat in the back seat and leave in sweats. But that night she left the house looking like she was headed to a cocktail party. Full makeup, tight dress, heels. When I asked, "That's what you wear to yoga now?" she laughed and said, "We're grabbing smoothies after. Don't be such a dad." Something in me snapped. I waited 20 minutes, grabbed my keys, and drove to the yoga studio. Her car wasn't there. On a hunch, I swung by the same downtown bar Matt had mentioned before. And there she was, sitting at a corner table with the same guy, tall, bearded, leaning in close while she touched his arm like she'd done it 100 times before. I froze for a moment, my chest tight. Then, against my better judgment, I walked in. She saw me almost instantly, and her face went from shock to fury in half a second. Not guilt, not shame, fury. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, like I was the one caught cheating. The guy looked uncomfortable, muttered something about giving us space, and left. Anna turned on me, saying, "You're embarrassing me. You can't just stalk me like this." Stalk. I'd caught my wife lying about yoga to hang out with another man. And somehow, I was the villain? That's when I knew. This wasn't going to be one isolated betrayal. This was who she really was. We got home, and I was still shaking, part rage, part disbelief. I demanded she explain what I'd just seen. Without missing a beat, Anna launches into this Oscar-worthy performance about how the guy was just a client who needed emotional support because his dog died. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because the lie was so absurd I didn't know how else to react. "Really? You needed to wear a dress and heels to comfort him?" She doubled down. "Yes, and we didn't meet at the office because it's too formal. He needed a friendly environment. You're making something innocent sound dirty." I pointed out that most grieving pet owners don't flirt over cocktails. She snapped back with, "Wow. So now I can't even be nice to people without you assuming the worst? You're controlling, you know that." That word, controlling, hit me like a punch. She was flipping the script so hard I almost started doubting myself again. But deep down I knew. The way she looked at him, the way she acted when she saw me, no grieving dog owner in the world explains that. And yet, I still didn't leave. Part of me hoped this was the last time. Spoiler, it wasn't. A few nights later, Anna fell asleep on the couch with her phone still in her hand. Normally, I wouldn't touch it. I'm not a snooper by nature, but something in me just needed to know. Her phone wasn't locked, a miracle in itself, so I opened her messages. And there it was. Dozens of texts with client paw prints. Yes, she'd actually saved him in her phone with a little paw emoji. The conversation wasn't about marketing projects or grieving pets. It was all, "Can't stop thinking about last night's smirking face. You looked so good in that dress. Can't wait to take it off you next time. When's your husband working late again?" My stomach turned. There were also selfies, not fully explicit, but definitely not friendly. Her in lingerie, in our bedroom, in the mirror, the same mirror I used every morning. I put the phone down quietly, like it might explode, and just sat there staring at her while she slept. I'd never felt so angry and so hollow at the same time. When she woke up, I didn't say a word. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I was afraid I'd just scream until my throat gave out. But I knew this. The next move had to be mine. The next morning, I waited until she was in the kitchen making coffee. I put her phone on the counter and slid it toward her. "Want to explain these?" I asked, my voice way calmer than I felt. She glanced at the screen, and for a split second her face froze. I saw it. That flicker of panic before she plastered on a fake smile. "Oh my God, you went through my phone? Seriously? That's such a violation." I cut her off. "Don't turn this on me. Who is he? And don't say a client, Anna. I read everything." And then she laughed. Actually laughed. "Wow, you really don't understand how flirting works, do you? It's harmless. I was just keeping him interested so he'll keep giving me business." "Business? You're sending lingerie selfies for business?" She rolled her eyes like I was the one being dramatic. "You're overreacting. Nothing physical happened." That's when I lost it. I told her I'd been patient, I'd ignored red flags. But this was it. She'd crossed every line. I said I wanted her out of the house until we figured out what to do next. Her face changed instantly. No more laughter. Just cold. "If I leave, I'm not coming back," she said, like it was a threat. At that moment, I realized maybe that was exactly what I wanted. When Anna realized I wasn't begging her to stay, she went nuclear. She stomped upstairs, grabbed a duffel bag, and started yanking clothes off hangers like she was in some kind of speed competition. Every few minutes she'd throw in a little jab. "You'll regret this. No woman is going to put up with your paranoia. Have fun being lonely." Then, just when I thought she was done, she took it further. She grabbed my laptop from the desk. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Taking my stuff." "That's my laptop." "Oh, please. I've been using it for months. Half the files are mine." Before I could stop her, she was scrolling through my personal folders. She found old messages with friends where I'd vented about her, and she smirked. "Wow, wonder what your family will think if I forward these." I told her to give it back, or I'd call the cops. She laughed, and said, "You wouldn't dare." She left with the laptop in her bag, slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall, and peeled out of the driveway. 5 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. Texts from friends, my sister, even my boss, all saying they got screenshots of my trash talk about Anna. She'd actually sent them out while driving away. That's when I realized ending this wasn't going to be quiet or simple. By the next morning, it was clear Anna wasn't content with just leaving. She wanted to scorch the earth behind her. I woke up to find my social media blowing up. She'd posted this long, dramatic announcement about how she'd escaped an emotionally abusive marriage and how she'd been gaslit for years by a controlling husband. She even tagged mutual friends, my family, and some of her coworkers. And the comments, God, the comments. People I barely knew were telling me to do better and seek therapy. Then came the cherry on top. I got an email from HR at my job. Someone, guess who, had sent them a concern message claiming I'd made misogynistic remarks in the office. Totally false, of course, but now I had to deal with an internal review. I knew Anna could be petty, but this was next level. It wasn't just about lying anymore. She was rewriting our entire relationship history to make me the villain. What hurt most wasn't even the lies. It was how quickly some people believed her without ever asking my side. I realized pretty quickly that sitting back and hoping the truth would come out wasn't going to cut it. Anna was controlling the narrative, and I needed to take that power away from her. So, I started collecting everything. Screenshots of her texts with client paw prints, pictures of her with him at the bar, voice messages she'd accidentally sent me where she was clearly drunk and talking to him. Even the metadata from those lingerie selfies she'd sent, all time-stamped while I was at work. I organized it into a neat little folder on a USB drive labeled Truth Bomb. Then I called my sister, who had always been skeptical of Anna. We sat down and went through everything. Her eyes got wider with every new piece of evidence. "You need to send this to everyone she's lying to," she said. I hesitated. I didn't want to be that guy airing dirty laundry, but at this point, my reputation, and maybe even my job, was on the line. So I did it. I sent the whole package to my family, her family, mutual friends, and yes, even HR. The subject line was simple: "Here's the truth." The fallout was immediate. Her carefully crafted, abused wife story started to crumble. People began deleting their sympathetic comments on her posts. A couple of her friends even reached out to apologize for believing her so quickly. And Anna? She went silent. Not a peep for 3 whole days. On the 4th day of silence, Anna finally texted me. Just 3 words: "We need to talk." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She walked in looking perfectly put together, like nothing had happened. No signs of shame or stress. She sat down, took a sip of her latte, and without any preamble said, "I'm pregnant." I almost laughed out loud. "With my kid?" I asked. She glared. "Of course with yours." I stared at her for a long moment, my brain replaying every message I'd seen between her and client paw prints. "Right," I said finally. "So you're telling me you've been sleeping with another man, but somehow the timing magically works out that it's mine?" She leaned in, lowered her voice, and said, "If you tell anyone it's not yours, I'll make sure you never see it, and everyone will know what a deadbeat you are." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just a messy breakup. This was a war, and she was willing to use anything, even a child, as a weapon. I didn't say another word. I stood up, left my coffee untouched, and walked out. But my hands were shaking the entire drive home. I knew I couldn't just take Anna's word on something that huge, not after everything. So, after a few days of silence and trying to process the chaos, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I got a DNA test lined up. It wasn't easy. Anna fought every step, said I was being paranoid, cruel, and selfish. But deep down, I knew I needed answers for myself, and for whatever this baby really meant. The day the results came back, I was a wreck. Hands trembling, heart pounding. I opened the envelope and read the page twice to be sure. The baby wasn't mine. All the lies, the cheating, the drama, and now this. It was like someone had punched me in the gut, then twisted the knife. But somewhere inside, there was relief too. Relief that I didn't have to be trapped in that nightmare forever. I confronted Anna with the test. She didn't deny it. Instead, she just shrugged, like it was no big deal. "You don't have to be the father to be involved," she said coldly. At that moment, I realized I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with someone who didn't care how much she destroyed as long as she got what she wanted. After the DNA results, everything changed for me. I realized I couldn't keep playing by Anna's rules or letting her manipulations dictate my life. I sat down and made a decision. I was done. Not just with her, but with the cycle of lies, guilt, and chaos she thrived on. I told her I wanted a divorce. No negotiations, no threats, no drama. Just an end to the madness. Of course, she tried to push back, crying, begging, promising to change, but I'd heard it all before. I knew better. I started seeing a therapist to work through the emotional wreckage, and I focused on rebuilding my life piece by piece. The hardest part? Accepting that someone you once loved could hurt you so deeply and still look you in the eye without regret. But I'm stronger now, and I'm learning that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, even when it hurts. Looking back, I realize how blind I was for so long. I ignored red flags because I wanted to believe in us, in her. I thought love meant sticking it out no matter what. But love isn't supposed to feel like walking on glass. It's not supposed to leave you questioning your own sanity every day. What Anna taught me, without meaning to, is that some people are more skilled at hiding their true selves than you can imagine. And sometimes, no amount of hope or effort can change that. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone reading this, it's this: trust your gut. If something feels off, don't brush it aside. Don't convince yourself that love excuses lies or disrespect. And don't be afraid to put yourself first. Walking away isn't weakness, it's strength. It's choosing peace over chaos, honesty over betrayal, and self-respect over manipulation. After the dust settled and the divorce papers were signed, I felt empty. Like I'd lost more than just a partner. I'd lost my sense of who I was. But slowly, I started putting the pieces back together. I threw myself into old hobbies I'd abandoned: running, reading, even picked up painting again. I reconnected with friends I'd pushed away during the chaos. Therapy helped me unpack the mess in my head, understand why I'd stayed so long, and learn how to set boundaries. Most importantly, I learned to be alone without feeling lonely. That was the hardest part, but the most freeing. It's not a perfect story. Some days still sting, but I'm proud of how far I've come. I'm finally starting to believe that a healthy, honest relationship is possible and that I deserve it. So here I am, closing this chapter of my life. It wasn't the fairy tale I imagined, but it was real, raw, painful, and brutally honest. If you're stuck in a relationship that feels toxic, that drains you, or where trust is shattered, please know you're not alone. It's okay to feel hurt, angry, and confused. Those feelings are valid. But don't let them trap you. Learn from my mistakes. Don't ignore the signs. Don't settle for excuses. And above all, don't be afraid to walk away when the cost is your peace of mind. I'm still healing, still learning, but I'm moving forward. And I hope my story helps someone else find the courage to do the same. Thanks for reading and letting me share. If you've been through something similar, I'd love to hear your story or advice. We're stronger together. A guy who finally found his way out of the storm.